Welcome to Content Chaos with George and Call, a weekly podcast diving straight into meaningful conversations about navigating modern life. Using their weekly review framework, they explore personal growth, professional insights, and cultural observations. No fluff, just authentic dialogue that transforms chaos into clarity.
Hello.
Hello. Episode 36.
36. Yes, so we are, oh my gosh, it's almost May. This is the last couple days of April before May kicks off Mental Health Awareness Month.
All right.
Yes. So shameless shill while we're here for any New Providence local summit, local area parents of 7th and 8th graders. There is a free event at the YMCA on Tuesday night, May 5th. I will be taking the kids, it's from 7 to 8 p.m. And I'm taking the kids through preparing for the AI future, managing, anxiety, but also just understanding what kind of skills and tools students should be thinking of and trying to develop. What habits should they be working on developing to help not only their mental health, but also their long-term path.
All right.
Yeah. From the perspective of mindfulness and just self-regulation. Okay,
Cool.
So that is coming up next week. And in the meantime, it is still April. What went well for you this week, my dear?
This past week has been really productive. I just have been, cranking out a lot of content. I had a new column go live in one of the big industry sites that'll be monthly. I've had a couple of, big pieces hit, on my side. It's sort of the culmination of work that's been done over the last year. So it's been a lot of, related stuff. I mean, since we got back from Spain, I feel like it's just been heads down, and yeah, that's it. I'm feeling good about all that right now.
Good.
So,
Good.
yeah. How about you?
I would say it's been a good week or so for in-person experiences and in New York City and entertainment. So for Earth Day, I attended a screening at Lincoln Center for an independent film called This Is Not a Drill. And it is an excellent film. It is from Patagonia Films. That's the, distributor. It is about environmental racism. It will be streaming live on YouTube beginning April 30th. So I
Okay.
believe, very, very soon. Highly recommend it. It's about the Rockefeller Family Trust has decided to put its focus and energy on fighting climate change. And they supported this documentary and this research. And I'm going to have a whole post about it on Substack. So people should check that out too. And then the other thing in New York, I attended an event. So NYU has a new initiative called NYU IRL, and they are really putting an emphasis on getting higher ed back into in-person, face-to-face, one-to-one engagement or, classroom engagement, so people aren't always distracted and on devices. And this event, they brought together teachers from different disciplines. And it's just, I appreciate learning from people from different domains. So if you teach science or you teach math or whatever you teach, I like to hear the experiences of different teachers. So that was pretty cool. And then lastly, on the entertainment side, Beef Season 2 is utterly supreme.
Yeah,
Highly,
so good.
highly
I
recommend.
almost went with that. I thought about that, but that's really, you're the driving force. You were the driving force behind that. So good.
It is. I just can't say enough about how brilliant it is and how much we enjoyed it. And then also that's on Netflix. And then the other one on Netflix, that a shout out for Earth Day and climate stuff. Zach Galifianakis has a show on Netflix about gardening, and it's lovely. And I love him, and I think it's well done. And yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah. Especially we're watching it with our youngest, and it's especially like with a family type, like everybody can laugh and learn.
Yeah.
Like I was talking with her, she brought it up, what we learned about apples
Yeah.
from that. So it was, yeah, it's good. It's good.
Cool. Okay, so that's what went well. So what could have been better over the past week?
Well, I'm sticking with our youngest. It's not really about her, but for me, it really, really bothered me that I wasn't at her soccer game to, see her kick the only goal in the whole game, which then, of course, means it's the winning goal. But we've just had this conflict with our tennis, which we've only had like a couple of times before. And, it's no big deal. You miss a little bit of a game here or there. And I would do things like go to part of a game and then go to tennis. But this year, all three of her first three games have been spot on top of our clinic or too far away. So it's one of those like you don't think ahead and then it's upon you and it just I really felt bad about that. I felt like I will be looking ahead. I'm looking at the schedule now and I'll be swapping my clinic time for another time because it just really bothers me not to be there and for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't say anything, and I know she likes us to be there, but yeah, she's tough. So I agree. It would
Yeah.
be nice to at least have one of us there. So,
And on your side, what could have been better?
I'm working on really harnessing my energy and not allowing it to drip out to the absolute absurdity of planet Earth right now, and particularly United States of America. So rather than tread into a lot of the most debaucherous and absurd, I'm going to go with that Trump has fired the heads of the National Science Foundation board, that it's the independent body that sits between the government and the private sector and basically funds university research. And this is like super dangerous to be not funding research. It's so basically any kind of R&D that's going to be done is going to either have to come from outside of the United States or it's coming from big tech, which they are, incentivized to just make themselves richer and continue doing all the harm that they do. So this is not good, and we need research from places outside of the United States. Hopefully Europe can get it together. And it's a sad state of affairs. I was at another talk today at Rutgers, and the speaker was talking about her experiences as a Fulbright scholar. And the dialing back of this kind of support for people to learn. These are not nice to haves. These are the things that create medicine and, just essential innovation. So, yeah, that is not good. Definitely could be better.
Was it the Fulbright scholar? Is her picture in the airport? Do you know? There are two Rutgers scholars their pictures are in several places in the airport. It's like a Rutgers promo, like learning something about like, the most prestigious,
I
scholars.
don't
Okay.
I I have no idea. I didn't see it, and I don't know how,
Yeah.
I'm sure Rutgers does pretty well in their
Yeah. Yeah.
share of Fulbright winnings, but what about okay, wait. So already said
We
your
did
what could
better.
be
Yep.
better.
We're
Okay.
on to learned.
Okay, so what did you learn?
Well, there's a theme here. So I reintroduced myself just real quickly and relearned all about some like things were coming at me that were reminding me of why I liked Joe Strummer so much. And it wasn't, I mean, yeah, the music and the Clash and all that, but what anybody who knows about him knows that he was very, I wouldn't say spiritual, but most people would think he was very political, and he was political. He had opinions, but it went beyond that about, just how to treat people and how to be a good person. And it was more about attitude. And anyhow, so I rewatched the Futures Unwritten documentary, and then and in that it reminded me of a couple things. Reminded me of your friend Beth and her family. So when we're in Spain at her home, there's a lot next door with a house and it's filled with squatters. And so where I had seen and heard a lot about squatters before was in this documentary when during the early 70s, In
Oh, okay.
London, the council had bought, like, I'm talking like hundreds, if not thousands of homes. They were just left empty. These buildings, like row houses, they were just left empty. So it was partly, it's a little bit romanticized, but there was actual footage. Like it wasn't like just, fairy tales about how these folks would, partly they were without a home. They were unhoused and they needed a home. And so these things are sitting there. So they moved in. Others, it was a activist kind of statement, like you can't just leave these empty while people are unhoused. And so
Yeah.
they would move in that way. And so there was a whole culture, and that's where a lot of artists and bands came out of that whole thing. But now then, like everything, like, I don't know, everything is there's a lot of synergy in the world. Things happen, serendipity maybe. And then I read about the squatter hunter this week, and I learned all about this squatter hunter who is, let's see, his name is Flash Shelton. That's his actual name. It's a great name for a squatter hunter. So I there's an article in People magazine, and he's gone viral recently. That's how he ended up on my radar screen. And he lives in Northern California, and his mother's home was empty and squatters moved into it. So that's where he became the squatter hunter. What he does is he gets a lease from the owner. So he's legally obliged to move into the home. He moves in with the squatters and makes it uncomfortable for them. And then they leave. And sometimes he says they're gone within hours. And like because he makes it clear he's not going anywhere.
How does he annoy them? Like, what does he do to make them?
I,
Do you have any
so,
examples? Like, I'm
well,
just.
on any given day, he's dressed in, I'm reading from People magazine. On any given day, he's dressed in black tactical body armor, armed with a pepper spray, a stun gun, a steel baton, a body cam, and occasionally a Glock 26 pistol strapped to his side with a cap on his head bearing a brusque message, "Get out." And these are all the tools of the trade for a guy who says he regularly confronts people who are illegally occupying uninhabited homes. So they don't want anything to do with him. And it doesn't really get into, real details about what he does, but I think his presence alone, he just tells them, he says, "Look, I have possession of this house now. You've got until the end of the day to get the stuff out. Whatever's left is mine. I've put up cameras and an alarm system, and I will prosecute you if you make an attempt to get back in the house." So he basically, gives them some time to get out. He's not messing around, and he's
Yeah.
afraid.
I mean, these are people who really dislike authority, and he comes at them hard as
Yeah,
a physical embodiment of authority. But
yeah.
he comes in like an undercover boss or undercover squatter style, you know.
It sounds like, yeah, yeah. So that I was just fascinated by that. It's just not, because if you try to go with the normal process, it takes months, it takes lawyers and tens of thousands of dollars, and still they end up doing much the same thing at the end of that
Yeah.
process with law enforcement. So this is just a faster means to an end of the situation.
Yeah. And the question is, do you pay him in Bitcoin? Is how do you, oh, I didn't hire him. That's funny.
Yeah.
I love that you rewatched that. And I actually really love the title, The Future is Unwritten, because it is true. It is absolutely true. We're like literally creating the future right now. And, times like this, people kind of fall into the nihilism and, oh my God, it's so terrible. But it's not, it's you can and people are able to change things.
Yeah. 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 It was good to rewatch it and sort of, I don't know, reconnect with a lot of that. Um, and it's interesting because there's a thread to pull to current times. So the Clash had the song "Rock the Casbah," which he actually did the lyrics, but and the drummer wrote the song right before they kicked the drummer out. Anyhow, it's about, so he was born in Turkey. His father
Hmm.
was like a diplomat, and so he lived in all these different places. For a while, he was in Iran. He had his friends in Iran. This goes back, we're talking 70s, early 80s, during that regime, and so he had been hearing about how, you couldn't listen to disco music, you couldn't have a discotheque, you couldn't go to a club and dance to any of that modern music, and he just thought that was preposterous. So the song was written about that. It was sort of, if you listen to the lyrics, it's sort of about that kind of rebelling through music, and freedom through music.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to the first Gulf conflict. And there was and it was at a time when he was sort of out on his own, discovering himself again. And he was in Argentina. He was living in Argentina. He had a good friend there, and they're watching, and they see on the television footage of, it's a US bomb, and it says rock the Casbah. It's going to get dropped on Iraq. And, he was so upset and, brought to tears that his lyrics about freedom and freedom of expression were on a bomb, an American bomb about to be dropped on, potentially innocent people. And so it's just like all these things just sort of connected, and as they do sometimes, but
Yeah.
it was interesting. So
Yeah.
what about you? What did you?
I believe in that synchronicity. I don't think it's a coincidence. Like I definitely believe those things are all connected
Sure.
and for a reason. So what did I learn? Oh, so okay, I've learned a lot this week. So I am jamming on my comparative education study of the country of Bhutan and its education system, which is fascinating and really a beacon for potential model for the future, because we're at a moment where artificial general intelligence is kind of leveling the playing field. Like human beings cannot compete on intelligence anymore, like a cognitive intelligence, because the machine's always going to be faster and able to access stuff faster than humans can. But the machines don't have access to empathy, discernment, judgment, all these things that are kind of more humanities and culture and reading the room and subtext, even just, outside of cognitive, there's like spatial and body. There's so many other forms of intelligence, but, Western thinking and big tech, they kind of go only to cognitive. So now that everyone's going to have the same kind of resource available to them, the differentiator is everything else. And in the country of Bhutan, it's interesting because they always, they revere education as part of the monastic culture, and the Buddhist culture. And they have this concept of gross national happiness, which is a relatively new concept. Even modern education is a relatively new concept there, that people have only had access to like mass secular schooling for since the 60s. Like it's relatively new place. And so, yeah, I find it to be a very interesting space to learn and study from, because they didn't even get access to television until 1999. They have been removed from these concepts of modernity and like endless capitalism and all climate, wreckage, all of this stuff. They've kind of kept themselves separate, and haven't made all of the same mistakes. So it's just a very interesting place to
Hmm.
look as a lab for understanding potential models for education. But I'm going to debut that. I'm going to host it on ColleenKennedy.com, and we will promote it next week. But I'll be pushing it out on, I don't know, my socials and Substack and whatnot. But I learned at NYU at the device free event that one of the pieces of information that really caught my attention was that research is showing that having screens in classrooms, they don't help learning. They lead to multitasking, which is counter to learning. They create less retention. And that's the next area that I'm starting to go deeper on, which is neuroscience and memory, because it really degrades memory. Constant short form entertainment and AI, interrupting your deep thinking. But and it lowers test scores. And not only does it do that, but it affects, say a student is not on screens, but someone next to them is, they have secondhand screen distraction. Like that's the thing. And it's other kids around them. It's if the teachers are doing it. And that's something that parents always have to be cognizant of. Like our behaviors are informing, the kids' behaviors. And so
Yeah,
that's it.
that's
That's
good.
it.
It's a
Yeah.
lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
All
So,
right.
okay,
We
well,
did it.
we did. Thank you. And another shameless shill to anyone in Summit Friday night. Join us on the Summit Green. We're kicking off Mental Health Awareness Club month for the Mental Health Coalition. It's 14 towns in 3 counties, normalizing and making mental health something that we can all talk about.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. Well, till next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.